two men built a $2 billion cocaine empire while racing speedboats on ESPN. Champions. Celebrities. Smugglers. And when the federal government finally brought them to trial, they bribed jury members to secure an acquittal. With cash. With bodies. With a jury leader who took $500,000 and sat there, straight-faced, and said not guilty. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is what happened in Miami. Augusto Willie Falcon and Salvador Sal Magluta grew up together in Miami. High school friends. Cuban-American kids from the same neighborhood. And somewhere in the late 1970s, they made a decision that would turn them into one of the largest cocaine trafficking organizations in South Florida history. From 1978 through 1991, they ran a smuggling operation based out of South Florida, on Utilizant La Bahamas as a staging area to move cocaine by boat directly into the state. Fast boats. Their boats. The same boats they raced competitively on national television. Think about that for a second. Sal Magluta won 3 national powerboat championships. 3. He sat on the American Powerboat Association Commission. Willie Falcon won a major offshore race in the Florida Keys in 1986 under his team name, Team Cougar. ESPN broadcast their races. Fans cheered. And the whole time, they were using those exact same vessels to move drugs worth $2 billion into the country. $2 billion. Not 2 million. Billion. Subscribe to this channel if you want more stories like this, where the hardest things to imagine turn out to be completely, verifiably real. The cover was perfect. Powerboat racers need fast boats, they need money, they need to move between islands regularly. Nobody questions a champion. Nobody searches a trophy winner at the dock. Willie and Sal moved through Miami society like celebrities, which they were, and the whole operation stayed invisible for over a decade. Then, in December 1983, Scarface hit theaters, a movie about a Cuban immigrant building a Miami cocaine empire. A movie about a Cuban immigrant building a Miami cocaine empire. They sat in those seats watching a fictional version of exactly what they were doing in real life. No irony was lost on anyone. They laughed. They loved it. And then they went back to work. By April 1991, a federal grand jury had seen enough. They charged both men with smuggling over 75 tons of cocaine into the United States. 75 tons. The government had spent years building the case, flipping informants, gathering evidence, lining up witnesses. This was supposed to be the clean, airtight prosecution that put 2 kingpins away forever. But witnesses started dying. Between 1992 and 1993, multiple people who had agreed to testify against Falcon and Magluta were shot. 3 of them died, gone before they ever reached the stand. The prosecution's case crumbled piece by piece. Key testimony disappeared along with the people who were going to give it. Willie and Sal's defense team, which they funded with $25 million of their own money, dismantled what remained. $25 million on lawyers. That number tells you everything about what was at stake and what they were willing to spend. February 1996. The jury delivered its verdict. Not guilty on all drug charges. The courtroom went silent. Prosecutors sat frozen. Willie and Sal hugged their lawyers. And just like that, the biggest cocaine case in Miami history collapsed. The government knew something was broken. A $2 billion operation, 75 tons of documented cocaine, years of investigation, and the jury came back with nothing. Clean acquittal. That does not happen by accident. So the FBI went hunting. July 1998. An undercover agent named Jack Garcia drove to a Miami airport parking lot and met with Miguel Moya, the jury leader from the 1996 trial. Garcia did not show up as a federal agent. He came in posing as an associate of the drug smugglers. He played the role completely, and Moya, sitting in a parking lot 2 years after the trial, admitted everything. He had taken $500,000 to steer the verdict. And he told Garcia he would rather do 20 years in prison than give up the name of whoever paid him. He fell for the bluff. All of it. August 19th, 1998. Police arrested Miguel Moya. July 1999, a court convicted him of bribery and sentenced him to 17 years in prison. The verdict that set Willie Falcon and Sal Magluta free had been bought and paid for with $500,000 in cash. Now the government came back. Hard. In 2002, Sal Magluta went on trial again, this time for money laundering and jury bribery. Convicted. January 2003, a judge sentenced him to 205 years in federal prison. later reduced to 195 years. 195 years. For a man who once stood on podiums as a national racing champion, photographed and cheered. 195 years is not a sentence. It is a burial. Willie Falcon took a different path. In 2003, he admitted to money laundering and accepted a 20-year deal. June 17, he walked out of federal prison. November 18, the U.S. government deported him to the Dominican Republic, and after that, his location became unknown. He is out there somewhere. Sal Magluta is not. He sits today in ADX Florence in Colorado, still serving. His requests for early release, citing poor health and long stretches of solitary confinement, have all been denied. The gap between those two outcomes is sharp. One man is free, location unknown, with a memoir in the works and a life rights deal announced in June 2025. The other is buried alive in a federal facility. Both of them ran the same operation. Both of them bought the same jury. How does one man get 20 years and the other gets 195? That question does not have a clean answer. If you're watching this and thinking something feels wrong about that verdict, hit like. The algorithm actually pushes this to more people when you do, and this story deserves to be seen. What does have an answer is what this whole story exposed about how the system gets broken. This was not a spontaneous jury gone wrong. Somebody identified the right people, approached them, handled the money, and managed the risk of 12 strangers keeping a secret. The jury bribery in the Falcon Magluta case was organized criminal infrastructure applied directly to the justice system. They bought cocaine, boats, and lawyers. They also bought the verdict itself, and it worked for 2 years. In December 2024, author T.J. English published a true crime book called The Last Kilo, Willie Falcon and the Cocaine Empire That Seduced America, documenting the full scope of the operation and Falcon's life inside it. The story is now being turned into a film based on T.J. English's book. Willie Falcon, the man who helped corrupt a federal jury, is getting a movie deal. Sal Magluta, locked in Colorado, gets nothing. The American justice system caught up with both of them eventually. It took years of collapsed cases, murdered witnesses, and a bribed jury foreman admitting the truth in a parking lot to a man pretending to be a cartel fixer. That is what it took. A federal government with unlimited resources, years of work, and the best prosecutors in South Florida still needed an undercover bluff at an airport to crack this case open. Willie Falcon and Sal Magluta built a drug empire, and they built a system around it. Speedboat fame as a shield. Their high-priced defense team, funded with millions in drug proceeds, dismantled what remained. Witnesses who could not testify because they were dead. And a jury leader who looked at $500,000 and decided that was the right price for justice in Miami. This story does not end with justice. It ends with one man deported after serving his sentence and another man serving a long term in a federal prison. Both of them the architects of something that moved $2 billion worth of cocaine through American cities and corrupted a federal trial in broad daylight. If this story hit you the way it hit the prosecutors who watched that not guilty verdict get read in 1996, like and subscribe. There are more stories exactly like this one, where the crime is bigger than you imagined and the system is more breakable than anyone wants to admit.